over $16 million to a homeless man on the side of the street.
I'm back to leader all the gang.
This is Delonte West's story. Delonte had one of the toughest childhoods in the NBA. He grew up in poverty, parents divorced, and kids would constantly bully him for having red hair, making him feel like an outcast. And for years, he struggled to fit in. The only thing Delonte had was basketball. That's what gave him his ego, his identity. And as a kid, it was the only thing that made him happy. But when Delonte turned 12, he suffered his first devastating injury, and it left him sidelined for months. This was the first time he wasn't able to drown out his thoughts with basketball, and he spiraled into a deep depression. His mom saw he was struggling and decided it'd be best for him to live with his dad for a bit, but this only made things worse. His dad couldn't care less about what he was going through, and his new school was full of kids that were bad influences, opening the door for him to start experimenting with prescription drugs and alcohol. It wouldn't be until his leg injury healed that Delonte could feel somewhat normal again, back to distracting his mind with basketball. And by the time he got to high school, he ended up turning into a star athlete, averaging over 20 points a game. It was obvious this kid had all the talent to make it to the NBA. Then in college, he took things to another level. During his junior year, Delonte and Jameer Nelson, a future NBA player as well, were known as the best backcourt in basketball, and they torched through the regular season. Delonte was averaging 19 points a game, and the two stars led the St. Joseph Hawks to a 30-2 record. This officially put Delonte West's name on the map. With the 24th pick in the 2004 draft, it became official. The Boston Celtics selected Delonte West, and he accomplished his childhood dream. But as quick as things went up for Delonte, they began crumbling down. Injuries derailed his first few years in the NBA, and it wouldn't be until a trade in 2008 that the world would really get to know him, for good and bad. Delonte was traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers, giving him the opportunity of a lifetime, playing with LeBron James as the Cavs' starting point guard. This was the moment he was waiting for. But his years with the Cavs would also be filled with controversy. It started with him lashing out at teammates during the preseason, which made the Cavs force Delonte to take a break and talk with a doctor. And he ended up being diagnosed with bipolar disorder. This meant Delonte would have extreme emotional highs and lows. So he started taking medication, talking to professionals, and learning to live with this. But that was just the beginning of his troubles. Behind the scenes, Delonte had a secret life that no one knew about. In September 2009, he was arrested while riding through DC on his motorcycle. He was pulled over and had 3 different guns on him. And with that, Delonte's name was in headlines everywhere, and people started questioning what was going on in his life. He ended up getting a slap on the wrist, sentenced to 8 months of house arrest, 2 months of probation, and 40 hours of community service. Then the following season, Delonte was involved in a controversy that not only left a stain on his legacy, but also LeBron's. The Cavs went into the 2009-2010 playoffs with the best record in the NBA. And LeBron was on a mission to get his first ring. But after going up 2-1 in the semifinals against the Celtics, the Cavs lost 3 straight games and were knocked out. LeBron went from an MVP player to disengaged. And sports shows immediately jumped on the story of LeBron's meltdown, trying to figure out what happened. And they uncovered something no one saw coming. Delonte West was sleeping with LeBron's mom, allegedly. Rumor has it, LeBron found out that Delonte was hooking up with his mom during the Boston playoff series, and it completely threw him off his game. And just like that, the two players became the biggest sports topic in the world. Then, to make matters worse, the Cavs decided to trade Delonte away to the Timberwolves, and they waived him immediately. He then went on to sign a 1-year deal for the 2010-2011 season with the Celtics, but he had the worst year of his career, so they dropped him faster than they got him. It seemed like everything was falling apart, but luckily, one more team was willing to give him a chance: the Dallas Mavericks. They saw some value in the years of experience he had playing alongside LeBron James. So, the Mavs signed Delonte to a 1-year deal for the 2011-2012 season. But this season was one of the most controversial in NBA history. and it put Delonte in a position he hadn't been in since his middle school days. The NBA officially went into a lockout during the 2011 offseason due to players and owners not being able to reach an agreement with the players' union. This meant no teams could sign or trade players, players weren't allowed to use team facilities, and no one was being paid. For the first time in Delonte's career, he wasn't getting a consistent paycheck, and it turned out he hadn't been handling his money well at all. Delonte and his family had $1 million 8-bedroom mansion in DC, and he could barely afford that when he was getting paid. During the lockout, a water heater broke, and the family had to heat water up on a stovetop just to take a bath. The situation got so bad that Delonte, while being an NBA player, had to go get a job at Home Depot.